The hall of the Galactic Union was brighter than usual. Lights reflected from the golden panels lining the ceiling, while cold white screens floated before each delegate. They came from different planets with different shapes and minds, but all were silent as the Valari representative took the center platform. He stood tall, with sharp lines on his face and a voice that carried pride. His name was Rin. He spoke with confidence and no fear. Rin raised his hand and called for expansion. He wanted to claim a small blue planet from the outer rim. His words were smooth and sure. He spoke of progress and data and science and control. He named the planet Earth. The moment the word left his mouth, the room shifted. Voices stopped. Even the lights seemed to dim. An old figure at the back stood. Her robe was dark and her body moved slow. She was not from any powerful race. She was old and forgotten by many. Yet when she spoke, the room listened. Her voice cracked like dry leaves, but it carried something stronger than power. It carried memory. She spoke a simple sentence. Never mess with humans. Some delegates laughed. Some looked confused. Others looked down as if remembering something they wanted to forget. Rin smiled with politeness and asked why. He asked what was so dangerous about a species with no space gates and no plasma engines and no quantum fields. The old one waved her hand. A screen appeared. It showed a recording from over 100 cycles ago. A large fleet was entering Earth's orbit. The ships were bigger and stronger than anything Earth had then. They carried soldiers and machines and scanners. They had no plan to destroy, only to test. They captured humans. They studied them. They pushed them. They wanted to see what the species could do under pressure. At first the humans looked weak. They cried. They panicked. But soon things changed. The humans began to fight, not with power. With mind. They escaped rooms that had no exit. They reprogrammed machines they had never seen. They turned each other into weapons. One by one the ships began to fall. Systems shut down. Engines failed. The captors were trapped inside their own ships. The last recording showed a human looking straight into the command screen. His voice was calm. He said nothing about revenge, only a warning. If you come again, come ready to lose. The screen faded. The hall was quiet. Rin looked around. He nodded slowly. He thanked the elder. But in his eyes there was no fear, only curiosity. He said the humans might be strong, but that was long ago. Now the galaxy had changed. The Valari had grown. Their science was sharper. Their tools more advanced. He asked for permission to send a scout mission. Only to observe, not to engage. The Union voted. Most said no, but some were curious too. In the end, Rin got his wish. A small team, one ship, no weapons beyond shields. No direct contact. They left within the day. The scout ship broke out of the main gates and vanished into deep space. It moved, fast and silent. Inside were 3 crew members. Rin was the leader. Leo was the analyst. Mira was the systems expert. Their ship had no name, only a code. They reached Earth in 6 cycles. The planet looked quiet. Blue oceans, green lands, gray cities, life pulsing like a heartbeat. No war signs, no global weapons. The crew relaxed. They watched the planet from orbit. Leo studied patterns. He saw peace mixed with chaos, nations, borders, music, conflict, art, fire, dreams, all in one place. Mira found it strange. No single mind, no single path. Humans were everywhere, yet going nowhere together. Rin watched without emotion. He said this was a sign of weakness. He said a species without unity cannot survive long in the stars. He decided to test, not a full contact, just one capture, a sample. A human to study. Mira warned him. She said the Union's rule was not just old words. It was built from experience, but Rin dismissed her. He believed the rule was fear wearing a mask of caution, They found their target in a quiet part of the world. A man walking alone near a forest. No signals, no weapons, no armor. Rin called him ideal. They transported him without struggle. One blink and he was in the holding room. He looked around. Not afraid, not angry. Just alert. Leo observed through the glass. He said the human was calm. Too calm. Mira tried to scan him. But the tool showed errors. Then lights flickered. Systems slowed. Rin ordered a check. Myra ran diagnostics, but nothing made sense. Engines were still. Shields low. Internal map shifting. Leo looked again into the room. The human was gone. Not broken. Doors were not open, but he was not there. Sirens began. Rin ran to the command screen. One by one, the systems shut down. Not by force. By command. The ship was losing control. In the dark hallway near the engine room, the human walked slow and silent, pressed buttons without looking. He moved like he had walked the ship 100 times. He whispered something into a small device. No one heard it, but Earth did. The red lights flashed in every corridor. The ship's calm hum was now replaced with a strange silence. It was not the silence of space. It was the silence that followed fear. No alarms, no shouting. Just the quiet that came when control slipped away. Captain Rin stood in the center of the command room. He gave quick orders. Lock all doors, scan all levels, track the human. But nothing worked. The doors did not respond. The sensors gave no readings. The ship was still alive, but no longer theirs. Mira sat with her eyes fixed on the screen. She tapped again and again, but the system pushed back. She said someone had taken control from the inside. But the code was not from the ship. It was something else. Something human. Leo watched the footage from the past 10 minutes. He rewound. Frame after frame, trying to find how the man escaped the holding cell. There was no sign. 1 second the man sat in the chair. Next frame he was gone. No movement. No sound. No struggle. He told Rin that this was not natural. Not possible. Rin refused to believe it. He said humans had no teleportation, no advanced cloaking. They had no access to this level of technology. Rin believed there was a traitor on board. Someone must have helped the man, but Mira shook her head. She said the ship logs were clean, all entries sealed, no foreign signals, no outgoing access, no breach from outside. Everything that was happening was coming from within. From the man they captured. Rin ordered a split search. He and Leo would check the lower decks. Mira would stay and try to reboot the core system. The goal was simple. Find the man and stop him. In the hallway near the storage room, the lights flickered again. Leo pointed his scanner at the walls. The readings made no sense. The walls were solid, but the signal was bouncing as if the corridor was bending. He said it was like space around them was folding. Then they saw him. The man stood near the emergency exit panel. His back turned, no weapon, no armor. Only silence. Rin raised his stun tool. He called out. The man turned slowly. His face calm, not a single sign of fear or panic. He spoke in clear words. You should not have come. Leo tried to scan him again. The scanner died in his hand. Rin fired the stun tool. Nothing happened. The pulse flew but faded before it touched the man. The ship lights turned off for a second, then came back. When they returned, the man was gone again. Myra's voice came through the comms. Her voice was sharp. She said someone had accessed the central data core. Earth coordinates were now locked. The ship was no longer floating. It was moving toward the planet. She could not stop it. Rin yelled for her to shut it down. Mira said she already tried. The ship was no longer obeying her commands. It had rewritten its own path. A signal was sent from inside the ship, a human code. Not just any code, military encryption. High level, impossible to fake. Leo looked at Rin, his face pale. He said the man they captured was not random. He was trained, maybe even placed. A trap. Rin refused to accept it. He believed the humans were still behind. still struggling with small wars and noise and pollution. He could not believe they had sent someone up, not just to watch, but to take control. The ship began entering Earth's orbit. The system ignored. Rin's voice, no response, no control. They were falling into the gravity zone. The human had taken full command. Mira opened a hidden file in the database. It was placed in a restricted part of the system, a part no one should be able to touch. But the file was open. Inside was a message. It was a warning from the man. Not written in anger, not filled with threats. Just a message: you came looking for power. Now you found it. Leave, or next time we come to your inn, ordered immediate retreat. But it was too late. The ship was already landing, not crashing, not forced. Just landing. Like a guest invited in, the ship touched down in a quiet forest, far from cities, far from crowds. The door opened on its own. Rin and Leo stood back. Mira watched from the screen. The man stepped out. He walked onto the green ground and looked up. A group of humans was waiting near the trees, not armed, not scared. Just watching. One of them walked forward and spoke into a device. The signal reached Mira inside the ship. It was a command to unlock all logs and clear the ship's memory. Mira watched helplessly as every record wiped clean. The journey, the capture, the human, all gone. The ship powered down. Leo whispered that they had lost, not just the mission, but the idea that humans were behind. Rin stood frozen. He finally understood the rule, not because of defeat, but because of control. The humans did not fight. They did not shout. They just took back what was theirs, without fear, without fire. The man who escaped looked back once, then disappeared into the trees. No one followed. The ship remained still, waiting for orders that would never come. The forest around the ship stood still. No sound moved through the trees. No bird flew across the sky. It was as if the land itself held its breath. Inside the ship, silence had replaced command. The screens had no light. The engines had no voice. Nothing moved except the minds of those left behind. Rin paced the command room. His face no longer showed confidence. He no longer spoke with force. He now carried the look of someone who had seen something he could not explain. He had always trusted numbers and systems and control. Now none of them made sense. Mira sat beside the main console. Her fingers rested on the screen, though it did nothing. She whispered to herself as if trying to wake the ship from a dream, but it remained cold. The power core had not failed. The systems had not broken. They had simply chosen not to obey. Leo sat near the door. His eyes locked on the forest. Outside, he knew the human was still nearby. He had not vanished. He was watching, waiting. Every second that passed brought more questions. How did one human take control of a vessel built with defense codes stronger than warships? How did he move through doors that needed permission from 3 ranks? How did he send messages through systems not even the crew could read? No one could. Answer: they had tried to contact the Velari base, but the signal vanished before it could reach orbit. Every time they tried again, the message bounced back. It was not being blocked. It was being erased. In transit, Rin finally spoke. He said they must act now. They could not stay in silence. They must find the human, speak to him. Understand what? He wants. Leo shook his head. He said the human already spoke. He had made it clear. Leave. Do not return. But Rin would not accept defeat. He believed there must be a way to gain control again. He believed humans were not gods. They had weaknesses, like all species. If one human could take control, then others could be taken too. He stepped outside with Leo while Myra stayed to monitor any signal change. The forest was still quiet. No movement in the branches, no whisper in the leaves. But the air was thick, not with smoke or heat, but with awareness. The ground beneath their feet felt like it listened to every step. They walked slowly past tall trees. Every shape looked like a shadow. Every sound felt like breath. Then they heard it. A small vibration. In the ground, not loud, not strong, but steady. It came from the east. Rin signaled to follow it. They moved through a path that opened as they walked. As if something guided their steps, they reached a clearing. At the center stood a small tower. It looked like old Earth tech. Rusted metal, broken wires, but it pulsed with power. A soft blue light at its top blinked in rhythm. Rin stepped closer. He reached out to touch it. Leo pulled him back. He said they should wait, observe. But Rin ignored him. The moment his hand touched the metal, the sky shifted. Not with color, with presence. Something above them had changed. Not seen, not heard. But felt. A voice echoed. Not through the air. Through the bones. You came with pride. You leave with warning. Rin stepped back. He looked around. No one in sight. The voice had no direction. No face, just presence. The tower light blinked faster. A panel opened from the side. Inside was a device. A simple cube. Rin took it. The moment he held it, the images started. Not in his eyes, but in his mind. He saw humans fighting machines taller than towers. He saw humans trapped under cities made of fire. He saw humans surrounded by creatures that moved without form. Every time they fell, they stood again. Every time they lost, they learned. They grew faster than any species he had studied. They built not just to survive, but to understand. One image showed a room like the ship command deck. A human sat alone. He faced a screen filled with alien signals. One by one, he translated them, not with tech, with pattern, with instinct. Another image showed a child holding a piece of broken metal. Around her were tools not meant for human hands. She smiled and began building something new. The final image showed Earth surrounded by dark ships, not enemy ships. Human ships, built in silence. Waiting. The cube stopped. Rin dropped dive, looked at Leo. His eyes no longer held defiance. Now they held fear, not of death, not of war, but of something greater. Understanding, he now knew the truth, the reason for the rule. The fear was not that humans would attack. The fear was that humans would learn, that once they knew their enemy, they would adapt. Evolve, surpass. Back at the ship, Mira screamed through the comms. The ship had activated, but no one had touched the controls. It was lifting from the ground, slowly, not in escape, but in surrender. Rin and Leo ran back. The trees moved aside without sound. They reached the ramp as it closed behind them inside. Everything was bright again. Systems back, screens alive. But the ship no longer listened. A message played across every screen. You have seen what we are. Leave now. Return and we become what you fear. Mira stared at the words. She asked if they should respond. Rin said no. The ship turned on its own. The engines lit without command. The course was set. Back to the Union, the crew sat in silence. This was no mission. This was a warning. The hunter had become the hunted, and the hunted had no need to chase. The ship moved without a word from the crew. Its path was smooth through space. Its course was locked. Not even Mira could change a single number. On the panel, Rin sat still in his chair. His fingers curled tight as if holding onto the last piece of pride. Leo stood by the window. His eyes watched the stars pass, but his mind remained lost in what they had seen. Mira stared at the systems around her. Every light blinked with perfect rhythm. Yet none of them followed her command. No one spoke. Not because they had no words, but because the truth had already spoken louder than any voice. They had gone to Earth with a mission of study. They were now returning as messengers of warning. When the ship reached the outer zone of the Galactic Union border, it slowed without sound. A signal was sent ahead before they could react. The message reached the Union in seconds. But the message did not come from Mira or Leo or Rin. It came from the ship itself, written in clean language. Simple and strong. Earth has declined contact. The Valari ship has been returned. No further approach is allowed. The Union headquarters. Lit with alerts, screens flashed, delegates gathered. The name Earth had returned to their halls. And this time, it was not a rumor. It was a reply. Council leader Bren stepped forward. His face held age, but his voice carried weight. He asked Rin for a report. Rin stood before the council. He spoke without his usual tone. No rise, no fall. Just flat truth. He explained how the ship was taken. How one human used no weapon, yet disabled everything. He described the moment the man walked out without fear. He spoke of the forest, the tower, the cube. The message. The council listened in silence. Bren asked what proof they had. Mira stepped forward. She said the ship was wiped. No logs remained, no images, no recordings. Only the message that now sat in Union files, not sent by them, but placed directly into the core system. Some council members doubted. Others remained quiet. One delegate from the Arkan species said it was not possible. No primitive world could break Valari defense codes, Leo answered. He said Earth was not primitive. It was unknown. And unknown is always dangerous. Still, some refused to believe. So they voted by narrow margin. The council chose to prepare a second visit. This time not a scout mission. This time with power, a small fleet, not for attack, but for show. Rin objected. He stood firm. He said Earth had already seen their ships. He said a show of power would only show weakness. But the council moved forward. Within 3 days, 5 ships were launched. Each ship armed. Each captain briefed to remain distant. No landing, no contact. Only orbit. The fleet arrived near Earth. They moved slow around the planet. No message was sent. No beam was fired. They followed orders. Observe only at first Earth. Did nothing. No launch from the ground. No voice across space. But on the second orbit, all 5 ships froze. Their systems did not crash. Their engines did not fail. They simply stopped responding. From the surface of Earth, no beam could be seen. Number. Weapon fired. Yet the fleet now floated like empty shells inside each ship. The crews found something strange. Their screens showed a symbol. One circle with 3 points around it. Unknown to any database. One by one, the captains reported back. They described confusion, fear, then silence. The Union lost contact with the entire fleet. 3 hours passed. Then a signal came. One voice, calm, clear. It spoke not from one ship, but from all 5 at once. You were told to stay away. You were warned. Now you listen. You speak of peace, but send watchers. You send ships not to learn, but to measure. You bring weapons without intent to use them, yet call it safety. That is not peace. That is fear wrapped in protocol. Return your ships. Do not send more. You have not been harmed. But next time your silence will not save you. Then the signal vanished. The ships returned control to their crews. No damage. No trace. Just warning. The fleet turned and began its journey. Home. Inside the council chamber, fear moved behind the eyes of every leader. Not panic, not chaos, but cold realization. Earth had become something they could not place in charts or systems. They could not map it, could not frame it in old ideas. It was no longer a study subject. It had become a force. Bren called for silence. He looked at each delegate. He said the old rule was not just advice. It was a line that held the galaxy in balance. Now it had been crossed again, twice. And twice the response had been calm, but finally spoke with weight. He said Earth was not to be feared like a monster. It was to be respected like a storm. Not evil, not cruel, but beyond control. Rin stood again, his face calm now. He said the humans were not angry, they were prepared. They were not hunting but watching. Mira added that the human they met did not attack. He waited, he observed. He allowed them to leave. Leo finished with one truth. They had seen what humans were like when not provoked. They did not wish to see what they could become when pushed outside the chamber. The stars moved as always. Planets spun, lights blinked. But a new silence had settled across the Union. A silence born not from ignorance, but from knowledge. Across 100 systems, the word spread again: do not interfere with Earth. The rule returned to every training center. Every map marked Earth in red, not as enemy, not as friend, as unknown. And in the quiet of space near Earth's orbit, one human satellite blinked once, its signal brief message. Received no action needed. Years passed, but the memory did not fade. The Council no longer spoke of Earth in meetings. The names set, unspoken in minds and locked behind quiet glances. The 5 ships that had floated above Earth now rested in their docks, untouched. No one dared study them. No one dared repair what was not broken. They remained as reminders of a choice that should not have been made. In training halls across the galaxy, young cadets were taught about many species. Charts showed their behaviors. Lessons explained their politics. Earth was there, but marked with a single sentence: no contact. No interference. New maps showed a red ring around the solar system. Not a wall, not a border. A warning. The old rule returned stronger than before. No scout missions, no research trips, no unmanned probes. The system was quiet, and it was to stay that way, but silence did not mean ignorance in a deep station near the edge of known space. A small room held a private council. Not the full Union, only select minds. Leaders from the strongest sectors. Silent figures who moved systems with a whisper. They did not plan war. They planned prevention. They feared Earth not for what it had done, but for what it could do next inside. That room sat a report, written by hands that had never touched Earth, built from data no longer stored in public records. Every page described the moment the humans had taken control without violence. Every paragraph ended the same way: they knew more than they showed. One member spoke. He asked if Earth could be studied from a distance. No probes, only observation. Another warned that even watching had brought a response. Every eye turned to the center screen. It showed Earth spinning in silence, peaceful, still. Watching back on Earth, no one spoke of the visitors. The incident remained buried, not hidden. Just left alone in a valley far from cities, a base stood quiet. No flags, no gates. Just walls and towers. Inside that base, the man who had once escaped the alien ship now walked through the hall. His name was not written anywhere. His record showed nothing. But every door opened for him. He entered a room with walls covered in screens. Each screen showed systems across the stars. Ships, planets, movements. Not all from Earth. Most were not. But the data kept coming. He stood before one screen that showed a ship passing near Mars. Not from the Union, not tagged, not known. The ship did not stay long. It turned before entering orbit. Just like all others, since the warning, a voice spoke behind him. A woman in a gray uniform asked if they should react. He said no. Let them see what they need to see. Let them decide if they wish to remember. Elsewhere in the base, a group of students sat in a room without books. They learned from code, from live data. They were taught not how to fight, but how to understand. Languages from 50 systems, energy waves, ship design from species they had never seen. They did not ask why. They only learned it. One student asked the instructor if aliens would return. The answer was simple. If they do, you'll be ready. Far from the base in deep orbit, a black satellite moved in silence. Its signal was faint. No beacons, no transmissions. It watched, not the stars. The patterns each time a ship passed close to Earth, the satellite read its signal, not to attack. To learn it sent nothing back. But if it needed to, it could end the Union. More time passed. Delegates changed. Faces aged. Memory became history. New voices rose. They asked why Earth remained untouched. They spoke of resources, of opportunity. They had not seen what the others had seen. One young voice claimed humans were just clever, not dangerous, only skilled in fear. Old records were played again, not the message. The silence after they heard the signal cut off. They Saw the fleets freeze. They read the message left in their own system. You speak of peace but send watchers one by one. The voices dropped the rule, stood again. In time, Earth was placed under protected zone status. Not as a threat, but as a power too deep to test. No species ever claimed ownership. No claim was needed. The space around Earth was now part of something else. Something that needed no flag back on Earth. The man stood on a mountain alone. He looked at the stars. His hand held a device. Simple. Small. He pressed one key and the stars shifted on his screen. He watched a ship jump from one point to another across sectors. The design was Villari. The path was legal. But the move was fast. He smiled. He turned off the device and walked down the mountain. No words. No warning, just knowledge in the deep core of Earth's command system. A file updated itself. Not by human hand, by design. The file kept track of every visitor who turned back. Every system that blinked and then went dark. Every fleet that paused near the red line and then changed course. The name of the file was Simple Rule 1. It had no need to be opened. The rule was clear. The galaxy remembered. They had ignored the rule once. They would not do it again. The end.